Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the books Better Than You Think and Next Level Your Life, who I co-authored with several other authors. But today I have a guest, Patricia Gagic. Right? Born and I hope I know it was close. It was close to that.
That's very good.
But there you go. That's some of my French coming out. Anyway, she's born and raised in Canada, currently in Ontario, Canada, and is an international award-winning contemporary artist, author, percussionist, successful entrepreneur. She's a rock star drummer. We know that. She's going to talk a little bit about that. And she's got paintings all over the world. I know from listening to a few different things. I know she's got some, I guess, all over like the world in the Far East and in the Vatican. So I want to hear about that. She received a ton of awards over her lifetime. In fact, she's got an award coming up here soon in the next 3 or 4 months. She's a 4-time named WXN Top 100 Most Powerful Women in Canada, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018, and a member of the IWF, International Women's Forum. She's presented at Harvard Club at Boston, Carnegie Hall, and NASDAQ. She's a recipient of the Société National, and I'm going to try to get this right, the Beaux Arts Golden Medal in Paris, and recipient of the Silver Peter Vermeer Medal from Academic Society, Arts, Sciences, Lettres of Francais. Just have a little fun. Well, welcome to the show, Patricia. I'm glad to have you. I'm excited to hear your story. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff you've done through over the internet here, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, yay. Yes, I'm so super lucky, Rob, to spend some time with you. You know, we have our Ken Walls, our beautiful group that we're sharing every week, and but having a chance to, you know, you and I just a one-on-one is really kind of cool too.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Yeah, it is a special group because it's like, I don't know, it's like, I mean, consistently, it seems like it's about 15 to 20 people, you know, in that group every week. So that's been special to me. It's been special. I know it's special to you. You voiced that. And I think it's just a good group of people.
Awesome group.
Yeah. So, Patricia, this is about you tonight. It's about you. And you're this world-renowned artist, you know, and you've been doing, how long you been in like painting and doing whatnot here?
A long, long time. Yeah. So let's just say that forever.
Forever. Okay. We'll go forever, which means decades, right? So tell us a little bit, like, how did you get into art? I know that I heard a story at some point, like you were 3 years old and your mom gave you a set of pencils and you just ran with it.
You know, Rob, sometimes you just, you know, you just don't know what you don't know. But yes, I seem to have like an obsession with drawing when I was literally a little kid. So 3 years of age, every single time I would sit with a piece of paper or, you know, crayons, I wanted to draw gowns, dresses. And I was drawing Elizabethan ball gowns literally when I was 3 and 4 years old. I had no idea, never seen them. And, you know, I would finish a drawing, I would take it to my mom and dad, and I would say, oh, look at this. And they would just stare at me like, who are you? And then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have computers or anything way back then. So my dad was really excited to own Encyclopedia Britannica.
We had a set of those.
Okay. And they paid a fortune. I think it took them like 3 or 5 years to pay off them, because you pay like 60 cents a week or a month or something.
Gosh, I haven't heard that in forever.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Good, it's good.
And so we seem to have this what I consider to be like, we had the Akashic Library in our house, and you know, he bought a beautiful bookcase with glass on it, and we almost had to ask permission. We didn't just go in there and grab them, and they knew I would write on everything. So I was informed that if I were going to take one of them out, I was not allowed to write in them. I was not allowed to make marks. And of course, I would sit just for hours and hours with, you know, one of them in my hand. And again, you know what, think about, I'm so young, and do you know what I'm reading? But I learned very, very quickly to spell words out, and I practiced. And so when we lived in, I was born in Montreal. My father was a comptroller after the Royal Canadian Air Force, and he was transferred from Montreal to Toronto, and then Toronto into Omaha, Nebraska. So there was a funny sort of step aside. But when I would be reading and I had to go to school, I was obviously going to kindergarten. We didn't have nursery school back then. I could already read. So I'm in kindergarten and I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. Basically, sorry, backtracking it. I wasn't in Omaha yet. I'm sitting in front of the class and I'm bored out of my mind because I'm sitting there doodling, I'm drawing, I'm doing all these things. Finally, the teacher came to my parents and said, she doesn't belong here. She needs to go to grade 1 at least. So the same thing happened. I'm in grade 1 and they're reading Spot, see the dog Spot. And I'm already like Barbie and Ken, like I want to move on. And so I skipped and I ended up skipping. But along with all of that, the art was a huge part of the dynamics of my life. And as I became aware, and I know you love the word aware, that's a very big part of your practice.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So when I became super, super aware, I know I needed to focus on just moving the needle forward for myself. So I paid attention and I was, trying to grab magazines. Everyone else is reading comic books. I want to read magazines and books. And that's when I just knew that there was something about art. And part of the journey took me to reading, Life magazine and Look magazines. And there were always these, at the very back, there was a profile of a woman's face and it would say, practice drawing it. And if you can draw it, do it on a piece of paper and mail it in. And it was somewhere in New York. And I would practice and practice. And then finally, I had my mom send it in. And then out of the blue one day, there's an envelope that came in the mail and it was from New York. And I thought, oh my gosh. So we opened it and it said basically that I had talent and that I could be an artist. And it's that moment when you're basically 10 years old and someone important who you don't know, they're just a hired person. I didn't care. Yeah. So then I had that belief.
So that was at age 10. And so from 3 to 10, you're like you said, you're doodling, you're picking up pencils, you're drawing things, copying things. It sounds like, was it just like did you said you became aware at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know at age 10, you said somebody tells you have talent, but did you know and believe like, hey, I'm going to do something big?
I had the God spark, I think very, very early that there was, I had sacral energy inside of me. My father was very, I want to say it, religious. And so we were taken to church, oftentimes on Saturdays. I did catechism on Saturdays, Roman Catholic. And then also there was an opportunity for me to become involved with organizations within the church. So the Catholic Youth Organization, the CYO, I was one of the very first female, very young girls that took over being president of our group. So when
I played a lot of CYO sports as I was growing up. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I think my early training wheels were based on being raised with this heightened sense of awareness to be in servitude, and then B, not to ignore the and again we'll go back to the word the whispers, but the signs, the moments that would be so unusual that you'd think, well, that's extraordinary. This doesn't seem to be happening to other people, and I would speak about it. And, when you're a little kid and you say something and the people are like, oh, you're just weird. You're just crazy. But I knew that I had been, tapped on the shoulder and that I had something that would be important. And even if I didn't egoically, I think, have that feeling. I think it was a sense of simply responsibility to defining that I think we're given so much grace at that young age that you don't have the same parameters of an ego. So what you do have is like a shield around you, and you simply progress. So as your mind is progressing, your soul is still very, very pure. And I think it's that element that I didn't want to get rid of, even though I started seeing things and experiencing negativity around me. I could isolate myself, and I loved being alone. Oh my God.
Did you right? Okay.
Put me in a field with butterflies, I'd be happy.
So were your parents encouraging you along the way, or is this just something you just took and you ran with it?
Loaded question. My father thought that, I had to have a real job as I would get older. Like, you have to have a job. And so there was never any feeling that I wasn't discouraged from it, but I was more encouraged to go on the other side, not so much, like left side, right side. And so that's where I became involved with, finding a job and being a banker.
Yeah.
So,
You say that with such enthusiasm.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, okay. So talk about, so you're in your 10, you're in your high school years, and you're still doing the artwork. I mean, you're
Mhm.
drawing. Did you take art classes in high school and whatnot?
No, I just hung out with the rock and rollers and the hippies. And I was like everything from, I mean, my generation, what the excitement was that on Monday morning, they were announcing that Led Zeppelin was coming out with a new album. The Rolling Stones were going to be coming out with new music, that, Creedence Clearwater, like it was like an evolution that you didn't want to lose track of, but at the same time, you knew that you couldn't just sit in that. Some of us, many people did. I
Uh-huh.
wasn't one of them. I was very motivated. And I think I was deeply spiritual at that time. So I was more of a loner, more of an observer, and just I valued the architecture of relationships. So I found mentors even when I was, 12 and 13 years old.
Wow. So you mentioned banking, right? So you got into banking, from what I understand, it was like 22, 25 years old in that time frame. And obviously we know that wasn't your passion. While you're doing the banking, while you're managing at a bank, and you were a property manager at one point, were you still like that? Like, I imagine you were dabbling in art on the side, or were
Mhm.
you taking classes at all?
Nope. So I strongly had a sense of urgency all right. So my personal life, I lost my high school true love, my sweetheart, and that it was a super tragedy for me. And so that was a drive where I felt the need to do something super, super important. And I wanted to so I got a job as a teller in a bank, and I watched the manager, who was sitting in his office with his white shirt and his little tie and his black suit. And I kept thinking, I better find out, how I can get that job. Like, that's a job I should have. So determined to continue doing I did a lot of ink drawings, a lot of pointillism drawings. Wasn't painting, but I loved numbers. I loved the whole idea of the business of banking. Like, I couldn't believe that, you could take your cash and it went here and it went into this, and then you'd sit at a machine, the DDA box, and you would just calculate. We hand wrote the cards. So when people came in and gave you $2 to deposit, it went in your tray, and you hand wrote on the card. You'd pull their person's account number and hand write it on there. And at the end of the day, you have to balance and da da da. So
The old bank book, was it the old bank book kind of thing?
absolutely.
I remember the bank book. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. So anyhow, I saw this need. At the same time, there was the women's movement, very powerful, very strong, and I could just see myself as being. I needed to be somebody that way, that I could do my part, and I did. So I fought my way up the channel, not too hard, because I was recognized. I was maybe a little brainiac about it. I would stay after everyone left, and I would sit at someone's machine and I'd say, can you teach me how to do this? Can you teach me foreign exchange? Can you teach me about, this? And so eventually HR one day called me in and said, we think we should put you in our program. So I went into, learning the sort of management side of it. And then I did well, and they asked me if I would start training the MBA students. I did not have a degree, so I said, "Oh, okay." So I was doing that, and then I get a phone call one day, and lo and behold, they said, "We'd like to consider you as being one of the first branch managers, female branch managers, very young." So I was 25 years old when I was given my first traditional branch as a bank manager. And so there I would go to meetings with the district manager, and there'd be 70 men in the room. And me, I think I weighed all of 100 pounds. And, I've got my little suit on with my little tie and dress for success. And I continued to do all my drawings. And then it kind of clicked. I would follow. So going back to reading, I saw these articles about different artists, and Jackson Pollock. I was obsessed with the art of Jackson Pollock. To me, it was mathematics. I understood what he was doing. I could see the patterns. I was obsessed, and I was angry that I wasn't able to get someone like him to sit down with me and show me, like, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I jump in real quick? So I'm sitting here thinking, like, you were doing the art with the grade school, high school, whatnot, but that was, doing it on your own. You get this job and you got this knack for numbers. And so it sounds like you were, like, I wrote down the word go-getter here. It sounds like you were a real go-getter. Was there something in life that pushed you that way? Was you come from poverty, or you just naturally, like, man, I'm going to go for what I want? Is that how you were brought up?
Oh God, no. So you're right. I mean, it's not poverty, but my roots are European. So, of course, my grandfather came from Ellis Island, late 1800s. There's a real storyline to that as well. So when my father actually arrived to the country, to Canada, my grandfather had arrived earlier, and he lived in a field in Woodbridge. And until such time as my grandmother and my dad arrived on the ship, they lived literally in a field. So when my grandma and my dad arrived, they lived sort of like in a box. It's almost like a homeless person in a box on this field, until this lovely man who had a bakery hired my grandfather, and then they were able to rent a little house that he had. And then it just became my dad's mission to better himself. And so he put his brother through school to become a CA, an actual chartered accountant. And then my dad went to Toronto and then to New York. And at that time, he didn't have to, or he couldn't do the chartered accountants because they didn't have that. He went to become a certified general accountant and wrote the exam. And then he was hired again by the hotel chain, Sheraton. And then, they lived a comfortable life, but there was never there wasn't any wealth in our family at all.
So that drive, where do you think it came from? Just seeing the example of your dad?
Yeah, I think my grandfather, my mom's dad, was, my grandma died from heart, and then my grandpa lived by himself, and my mom because we lived away, like Toronto, London, Omaha, Nebraska, my mom didn't get to spend too much time with her dad. And so when he had ended up having cancer, we moved back into Hamilton to be with my grandfather. So I'm in high school, and I was very, very smitten, very close to him. He was my angel.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the combination of, my dad's life, our family and whatnot, I just saw that there was no reason for me not to try and succeed. My dad was really the one who inspired me. I couldn't do anything. And he encouraged me to read the encyclopedias. He encouraged me, here's other kids are going on these holidays, to Florida. my dad puts us in the car and drives us to Mount Rushmore. I want you to go see the Badlands. We're going to go and we're going to see Sioux City, and we're going to. So that was my dad. Like he had every Sunday, literally after church, we would get in the car and he would drive us somewhere on a path, take us to like literally a place in the forest, and we would collect leaves, and he would force us to learn the names of every leaf, tell us a story about all the trees, and then we'd come home, we'd iron them in wax paper. So there was this delightful energy around appreciation for the environment. And so that in combination to, everything else, I think it was just, but I'm going to go back to what we talked about as well earlier. Go-getter. There's this soul, this spark of God, this something that was inside of me, so aware when I was so young. And, I never thought I was extraordinary at all. It was just, this is normal. This is my normal. But I recognized inadequacy and inequality. So during the time that we lived in Omaha, Nebraska, it was early 60s, and I went to, a predominantly, obviously white school. That's the way it was. And I wasn't allowed to cross certain street intersections. We were not allowed to play with any of the children on the other side. One time I was called home. My mom picked me up from school before lunch, and I couldn't understand why. And she said, we'll deal with it after. And then I was informed when I got there that they thought a colored person was living or working in our house. And that was not acceptable. And I had no ability to comprehend that. So that stuck with me, hugely stuck with me. So I became almost like a little warrior for many, many years in helping and support people who had difficulties.
Wow, that's interesting. You sounds like you said the soul piece, and you had this. It's almost like this awareness. You say awareness, but it's also this intuition, right? That you just naturally had. And like one of the questions I was going to ask you before is like because I want to go to the soul piece too. Like, so you're so good at numbers, you have this drive in this business and banking, but you also have this passion for art. Was there ever like a tug of war? Do I go this way? Do I go this way?
Nope. I think I'm Libra with a Virgo rising. I have this 100% art and 100% the other business brain.
Right.
So I loved both so much that I could marry the two of them by doing and making decisions that benefited both sides. I felt like I've always lived a 2-career path life because I ended up having a full-time art career and I invested in it. Well, I think what happens is that you sacrifice. So when people are out doing other things, my desire to achieve what I needed to achieve would mean that I'd remove myself from other opportunities so that I could actually be in the zone of what I needed to accomplish. And I loved being by myself. I could paint and paint. I could read and read. I've never felt like there was any difficulty about anything. What you choose to do is what you choose to do. Yeah. So why would you complain about it or struggle about it? I see that as being, that's a problem if you have to make it a problem.
Yeah, but it's good. It's just, you said marry the two. Like I think about like I enjoy doing this right here. I enjoy interviewing people like yourself and others. I enjoy that. It's not a job, it's not a career yet, maybe, but my gig is real estate. I've been doing real estate for 24 years, and it's like, and I don't want people to get the impression, oh, Rob must not be doing real estate anymore. He must be, focusing on this and speaking and all that. But you can marry it. You can marry it, and if you just said it, 100% here and 100% there, and you marry the two. And let's just face it, you're successful at it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And that's not coming from ego, it's fact, right? So you're very successful at it. So where was there, I think, because in your art, it is a business, right?
It is. But it's funny, the other day, okay, so I went to my friend Anne's 70th birthday party, and a friend of mine, her son is there. He lives in Portugal. He's an IT brainiac. He's certified genius. And I could not wait to see him. I've known him since he was a little kid. And I sat with him, and he paid me the greatest compliment. He said to me, what I love so much about you, he said, is that you don't care what anybody thinks. You do and have done what you've wanted to do, and you're happy about it. I'm not selling a lot of work. I'm waiting for that tipping point where I've done the due diligence. I've worked hard. I've certainly studied, but I feel that the reward of that, if I were to chase it and just do what everyone else is doing just to be in the game, and, I'm going to do this because, Trish Romance is making $1 trillion because she made all these prints, and her bang, 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 everyone's knocking it off. For me, it's the love and the joy of being in the experience of creating, the gift of actually taking the omnipotent moment and saying, wow, I'm up against this challenge, and it's going to fuel through me, perhaps through the language of my painting. But I don't care if I make it dark, and if it reveals something instead of, a lot of people could say, oh my, if you can paint anything, why don't you paint, these beautiful flowers and decorative things? We could put them up on our wall. That's not the language of truth. That's just that's a production thing. So historically, I've never wanted to cheat myself by not being in my truth, or not revealing the depth of my being in the art. So I don't paint to make people happy. I paint because that is the gift that God bestowed on me, with using the wisdom that I think came through the generational DNA, because obviously we're 7 generations in and out. My mom carried me, her mom carried me as well in her DNA. So whatever it is that I'm challenged with, I don't have a big enough ego to do that. I'm also privileged because my husband has had an amazing, dedication, flawless dedication to supporting me. So when I was not working, once, I closed my management company, and I'm just now, 15 years of solid, I still work for the clinic, but solid painting, like studio, making everything real. I'm still that girl that sits behind the canvas going, I'm not waiting to be discovered, but I want to have things done well. But I also feel like there's a time frame, there's a path, there's a flow that is to happen, and it's on God's terms, not my terms. And Spirit is going to move me and say to me, so intuitively, because I think no matter what you call or who you believe or what it is you believe, the Spirit that enters into our higher consciousness is within us. When you are aware of it, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. So I felt my God within, Goddess within, and honor the beauty of that. So if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to go along waiting for, to build up that thing that is supposed to happen because someone else says it's supposed to happen, I don't really honestly care about that. So what I've been able to achieve or accomplish, it is extraordinary. There are moments, I don't want to change or redirect here, but I'm also a photographer, obsessed with weird seeing things. I had a very good friend, who, quite an eccentric person, who allowed me to photograph him. And I would get, these days when it would be super dark outside. I mean, it's Ontario, and there's, rain and mist and whatever. We did the series outdoors, and I had held on to it for a while. Anyways, there's one particular piece, and of the path, and I now I'm with this group in France, not through Dragon, but through somebody else. That's Karma Peace. And she said, I think we should submit your work to the Salon National Beaux Arts at the Carrousel du Louvre in Paris. And it's I'm thinking, okay, we can do that. Not in a million years. You have like over 40,000 photographers are submitting their work to be put into this most prestigious event. And there it goes. I end up going to Paris, not expecting anything. And I won the gold medal, like the highest medal you can receive in the category of photography. And I didn't, it's like I wanted to say, God, I didn't sign up for this. Like, it's nice that you're making that happen, but it's all good. Creating the photograph, being, with Blake and being in that moment, I can still feel what it felt like when I took those pictures.
I can see the energy changing you right now when you're talking about that.
Oh no, you
I
have
can
no
see
idea. It's like, it was beyond magical. It's like in that moment, I knew full blown that I was immersed in a fractal. I was immersed in a moment that was special. And then we took the pictures, and there they go. They sit on a little thing, and then all of a sudden, fast forward, you show up, and there's this moment where that moment that it was like winning that moment of actually taking the pictures was worth like winning the lottery. And so the odd thing I'm going to say is that winning the gold medal, I hope they don't take it away from me, but winning the gold medal was secondary.
Yeah. Well, I hear it. You used the word purity, used that word earlier, and it's innocence, it's purity. You're not doing this. It doesn't sound like it to me that you're doing this for money. You're doing it because it's like what you feel like it's what you're called to do. But I hear it. It's in your heart. I hear it. I hear it as you're talking through here. And you've said so much that I'm like, I got a bunch of questions here for you.
Okay.
First question I'm going to ask you is like, how do you know what you're going to paint when you decide to start painting?
So the word know, how do you know? I, again, will use your word, aware, but there's a magical gift that when you allow yourself to experience being in the fullness of time, to be in the experience of your zen, your bliss, and you snip everything else away from you.
You could say chisel.
I was thinking that. I'm glad you said it. Yes, when you chisel, Michelangelo, like you referenced that.
Yeah.
When you see that you're exactly where you need to be, then you are allowing spirit to emulsify. And even though other people might judge, because we live in that judgy world, it doesn't matter, because whether or not those paintings I've created are going to live 100, 200, 300 years from now, and maybe there will be some group of people that are going to look for the fancy messages on the back, and they're going to scrape and use red lights and all the rest of it to figure out, like, what did she really say? What did she really mean in there? I mean, that could be really cool. Maybe I should start doing that. I don't know. But we play in a world where everyone who's still trying to figure out what they're doing is still trying to figure that out. If you accept from the very beginning that this was a miracle to begin with, and all the cessation of suffering needs to happen. And there's so many things that have happened to me that could have knocked me off in a billion ways. The loss of my daughter last year. I mean, how does anyone cope and correspond with that on top of everything else? And yet I have to believe, and I do have such incredible strength and belief that my body is going to be gone. It'll dissipate. But my soul, my energy, this person who I am here had a job to do, whether it's just for me to purify, or if the beauty of whatever it is I can do, or the souls that I meet, or the souls that I touch, sort of like 100 monkey theory, that once that one thought is established, that it will progress. And maybe, I wrote Karmic Alibi. many people who have read that have said it changed their lives. It changed their attitude. Even if there's only a handful of people that are ever moved by the artwork or by your podcast or by your 2 books, I mean, you know that you're reaching out. And so when you're sitting on the side of a destiny, and it's going to be in the continuum of a destiny, all you're here to do is purify. The more and more that you can do, you purify. And as we go back to using those words of, our friend Glenn, it's like people have chronic opinionitis, and that's the deterrent. That's the place where you're listening to something that is yanking you or pulling you outside of the framework that was already in its perfection.
But you got to be strong. You got to be strong to be able to like fend that off, right?
Sure you do. And it doesn't happen. Like, I wish I knew what I know now and how I am now. I really do think there was a lot of that in me, but did I have to pull out the warrior goddess inside of me to survive through all of these events in my life that I can't, it's almost so overwhelming. I don't even know how did I make it? How have I made it?
And so we don't have to go into all of it, but the question I asked, when you're going through these challenges and these struggles and all these things are happening, or were you ever questioning God, or were you ever like, why are you doing this to me? Or did you say, okay, what are you doing for me? Did that ever cross your mind?
I don't think so. I've even thought about this. No, it's when you, and again, this is when you have the awareness that you have Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, that you have consciousness, it's like I've been able to separate and look at it in that duality, and not let it be an absorption. So I've been able to step outside of it and see it. So I think the continuum of this consistently happening, certainly there are repercussions to doing certain things and making certain decisions, but I think I've been the protection is also because I'm not attached to it. I'm not. Wow. And so I do not want, I have never had, I think that's one of my strengths. I don't have pity parties. And in fact, there are people in my life who have, and again, referencing, the loss of my daughter. I mean, I have family members, I have people who are more in a pity party than I am. To me, I was graced with the gift of giving birth to this child who had her own path and her own destiny. And I have 3 beautiful grandchildren from that. What she needed to experience was her karma. Uh-huh. And was I a good mother? Yes, I was a good mother. Was I aware that I was not the person who could change the destiny of anybody but myself? Yes. Yeah. Did I do my highest and best at all times? I believe so. But she's physically passed, but the fact that she existed and the impact of her existence must be celebrated.
Yeah, I love your attitude towards it. I do, because obviously it's crushing. I know that. So I'm just so impressed and inspired by like listening to some of these things you're saying, because you just say certain words along the way. I'm like, oh, there you go. And you like earlier, you said you got to stop chasing, right? You got to stop chasing, or not chase. Maybe you never chase, but some people chase and then they realize they got to stop chasing. And like I was listening to a Carl Jung piece the other day from and he talks about that, and he talks about, stop chasing for the accomplishment and the accolades, the acknowledgement, and just be. Just be. Yeah. And I think it sounds to me like you learned that, and I'm sure it's not easy, you've had to go through your struggles, but you've learned to just be a long time ago, and you still work on being instead of worrying what other people think. You said that. Yeah. You're not chasing. I love what you said. You said the love, the joy, and the experience of creativity. I think that's what you said earlier. And I'm like, I mean, that's life, right? Love, experience joy, have the experiences, right? And it's all about create, because I think God's creating all this for us to experience. And it's beautiful what you're saying. And use the word flow. Use the word flow earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm Catholic, right? I love being Catholic, but there's other people, there are other denominations. There's people that are born, raised Catholic, changed over, whatnot. And everybody's got their choice. I think we're all trying to get to the same place. I believe that, but it's this piece of, being at peace. And I think flow, when I hear the word flow, I hear peace. I hear just go with it. I let the Holy Spirit run with it, and guide you. And then you use the word truth. I love all this stuff. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that. You used the word acceptance earlier. I love all these words, and it's about this awareness. To me, I see you as somebody who's aware that you're aware.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah. So I have a very, you wake up and you think, okay, I have a very peculiar life, but I also think that it's as if you know something, that if you do what you're supposed to do, and if you follow the gifts, and if you don't deviate, you actually, even through all the hardships. I mean, I look at my art career and I think, my gosh, like I've won significant awards. There's a documentary about me. We're doing a second documentary. I don't have the feeling that I'm not worthy. I'm just not attached to it. So I think that I just will allow it to do what it is supposed to do. But at the same time, being in the presence of people who are extremely successful in what they've done. My mentor in France, that's another thing. I can't even explain how extraordinary it was, the way it innocently showed up, the way it innocently, I ended up meeting and actually working with Jigme Norbu, the Dalai Lama's nephew. I ended up being friends with Irene Cara, Flashdance. I've had dinner, not that this is a popular thing, but I've had lunch in the Royal Lodge with Prince Andrew.
Uh-huh.
So you, through art, but and spirit, you show up. And you don't expect these things. I don't have an expectation of the next thing that's going to happen. I just don't. I want to exist in the now, but I want to do my highest and best in the now. And I think that's by virtue of that place where it's being in the humility of simply every single second, knowing that it is a gift to even breathe. Every breath is a gift. And when you can get past all the other stuff, then you sort of almost subliminally, on a repetition, become so mindful of it that you make better choices, you make better friends, you eliminate the static that is not going to serve you, and certain things will happen. So it's a complicated world, but then I also have the karma piece, which is so going back a little bit, every single person, in many ways, there is a cycle of energy, a cycle of the soul that needs to learn certain things, so that there's this purification of the omnipotence of our God. Mm-hmm. And yet I think we also are here to serve. And if we believe that each person, if you believe in this, in your own belief of yourself, then you have to understand that from where we come from as humans, every single one of us is inside every single one of us. That collective consciousness, that collective being. So the adamantine particle exists inside of us. So how can you hate? How can you absolutely hate on or have prejudice? So even when I mentioned about Omaha, Nebraska, that was a devastating time for me, because I had no idea why this color of a person's skin was going to eliminate me from having a relationship with that person. As I progressed, and again, I mean, I ended up, by virtue of showing up, having an opportunity to be with Lama Glen Mullen and travel to Nepal and Tibet and sit in the presence of persons who spend their entire life in prayer and meditation for the cessation of the suffering of human beings, because they understand that we are a collective. So in our greedy society, in our super greedy way of wanting, the me thing, instead of accepting that it's all okay, that's what you're doing, but the fragility around it is what you do with it. So for myself, it's this piece of equanimity that I wish will come through what I do or the work I do. Or, you can have complicated thinking patterns. You can have complicated ways of explaining things. I think each of us comes with the ability to experience what we experience, and you want to share it. We all have a story, but not everybody can hear everybody's story and understand it. So as you dissect it, and I think, your platform, Rob, in the way that, you're sharing and asking people, it's phenomenal. It's melded in a way that makes you want to stop and listen and think, versus somebody's on a stage and they're blasting away at you. And, within 15 minutes, you're going to be a life coach. I can't feel that.
No.
But there are moments and times when sometimes, there's a person who just wakes you up, and that's the way, that's the sort of karmic field of life.
I mean, it's beautiful. Everything you're saying, it's just so beautiful. I just hope people, take it to heart, because like, you're at a high level. I mean, I see you as at a high level of consciousness, right? A high level of awareness. And, you just said, like, you show up with no expectations, right? That's innocence. Show up with no expectations. Yeah. And like, my this is it's opposite, but it's still, like you said, be attached to nothing. I use the word detachment, right? I want to be detached from the results. I just want to be, I want to do what God's calling me to do. And I don't always hear it, right? I tell people, the voice, God's always talking to you. He's always talking to you. One, you don't hear it. Two, you hear it and you don't listen to it. Three, you hear it and you put one foot in. Or four, you hear it and you go all in, right? I want to be that all in guy, right? Yeah. And I'm not there yet. But I'm a work in progress, right? And it's just beautiful to hear the way you're talking, the awareness you have, and it's just beautiful. I mean, I could talk like this all night, but can I ask you a couple other questions? Can I go sidetrack
you? I've got lots of time.
Because I'm really, I mean, I know, like, you're so in flow, you're so in the moment, and you're so, like, there's no ego here at all, right? But I got to ask you, how did you get a painting in the Vatican? Right?
Oh, so this is, again, it's when you pay attention to the strong feeling that you have about something, and it's a combination of having that, and then, all right, so I'll just tell the story. So we're in Saint Martin, and okay, so I'll go back. So several multi years ago, I love drawing, and we're in Sedona, Arizona, because I heard about the vortexes. Now I'm talking over 25 years ago.
Okay.
And I wanted to go into these vortexes, all this metaphysical, and I wanted to wanted to feel the energy. And I'm like Joseph Campbell, locked myself in my house for 5 years. I have 1,000 books. I wanted to read everything.
The hero's journey you're talking about, right?
Hero's journey, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about superluminal particle neutrino theory. Like, I wanted to know it all. Mother string theory. The bottom line is, we're in Sedona, and I have my art book. Like, I always have, like, my pads. And then I'm drawing and drawing. I couldn't stop. So the next day we go into town, and I had to go to the art store and buy more books, more paper, more ink pens. Then we hike up, because then you could get into there's 7 of the vortexes. You could actually climb up them. Now a lot of them apparently are partitioned off because people wear and tear, people getting hurt climbing, whatever. But I drew what I call the vortex graphic drawings, and as I finished those, I then continued this sort of series of weird alien drawings. But I go to St. Martin and I'm getting a God call. Bring your book and your pens. So here I am on a beach. Oh my God, I'm in St. Martin. I'm on the beach and I want to draw. So I go up, sit under the chair with my book and my inks, and I started doing these drawings of these goddesses, and they were the Black Madonnas. They just came to me. It's the Black Madonnas, and I did 3 of them. I did the Mother of Light, the Mother of Light, Synchronicity, and the Crystal Mother. And another one of my weird things that happened, because again, this was a weird thing, I became obsessed, as I said, wanting to know more about the Fibonacci and physics and that whole other side. And then I started studying the Kabbalah, the Zohar, the Tanya, Maimonides. I got into the esoteric, the Hanmi Esoteric Mystery School of Buddhism, Hinduism. I just needed to have a frame of reference. That what does everybody else know? What kind of part of that will I learn? But something triggered really weird inside of me, and I fell in love with the golden mean, the actual golden mean. So the spiral, everything stemming from that. And there's an equation, like with pi factor, it's 3.14, da, 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 da. The golden mean is 1.61803398874989484820458668. I memorized the first 300 numbers. And I started writing them everywhere. I wrote them. Ned and I would sit in a restaurant, and I couldn't stop it. It was like my brain just kept saying, and he'd be talking away to me, and I'd be writing on the napkin 1.6180339887. And finally, he's like, "You're a freaking loony bin. Put that thing down. Stop doing that." Like I was being scolded like a child, right?
Uh-huh.
In my studio, all over the walls, 1.6180. My friends would come over, and I would sit there as they're talking, 1.618. I couldn't stop. So I did these Black Madonnas, which incorporated, as I'm drawing them, me writing in their tiny, tiny, tiny 1.61803398 throughout the whole drawing. I bring them, they're home, they're sitting in this thing, and my friend Nadine, she comes over one day, and she was also a bit of an artist and an author, and she said to me, "Come on, show me what you've been doing." And I showed them to her. "Oh, Patricia, are you kidding me? These have to go to the Vatican." I'm like, "Yeah, right." And she said, "Seriously?" She said, "The Black Madonna." She said, they're like sacred. And then that triggered me reading everything there was about the Black Madonna.
Okay.
And then I realized, yeah, she's right. These need to go to the Vatican. So she had a friend who connected to somebody. And the next thing you know, there was a dinner organized, and the head, a person who was working with Pope John Paul, very senior, he wasn't a cardinal, but working in the administration, came to Toronto. They held a beautiful dinner. I presented the 3 Black Madonnas. He took them back to the Vatican, and they're in the Vatican Museum Library.
No way. That's incredible.
I went there once, but I didn't see them because they have like archives that are a city underground. So I'm sure they're just one of a million pieces of art. And they have major, major collections inside the Vatican.
I've heard. Yeah, I've heard.
But that happened. So in my head, I'm thinking the beauty of creating something that was sitting there, the way it happened, and then just letting them sit. And then all of a sudden, they end up where they've ended up. And then I've made multiple copies of them, and I gift them or donate them for,
That's incredible. What other places, where other places do you have like your art? And like, again, I'm not trying to boost ego and you're so awesome.
No, I mean, I had an opportunity to also present my work. Well, I gifted my work, obviously, to Prince Andrew, who's part of Colors of Freedom. So there's a piece in the royal family.
Crazy.
I had another friend of mine invited me to a lunch with Deepak Chopra. So this happened in Toronto at the Vishnu Mandir Temple in Brampton. And I heard him speak for like 4 hours straight to a private group. So he has my painting. My work, I was taken by BB International Fine Arts in Caslano, Switzerland. So my work was on display at Europe Art Genève, Congress House in Zurich, all the art fairs in Geneva, Seoul, Korea, the Gallery in Neuenkränzler Eck in Berlin, Austria. So, and then in France, my work has been in multiple exhibitions in Paris, Monte Carlo, Cannes. But again, it's like your work shows up and it's there and it's exhibited, but everything changes, everything dissipates. So
Yeah.
those were moments that it was pretty cool to have that happen. Yeah, Meg Gallery, like a lot. But then again, these wonderful things. So Art Tour International, this relationship I've had for a decade, they named me one of the top 60 masters, and then they named me cover. So I was on the cover of their magazine twice in that. And then somebody else knocks on the door and I'm named in the top 10 contemporary, which is this year. This is my third year to be in the top 10. My work is on the cover of the book, which is distributed into all the major museums and galleries. So it's like a beautiful thing, but there's no desperation. It's like a lot of people say, oh my God, you must, if you could sell, you must be selling all your work. But it's like, I think God has his fingers on it and he's not letting it go. It's like I have a studio filled with work and it's that I'm waiting, but at the same time, it's like, when is it the right moment that the work will be released? They say like, oh my God, so-and-so died. And then all of a sudden his work's worth millions of dollars.
You don't want to die first.
I don't want to die first. But again, it's the enjoyment of, it's like being in the process. So I don't know. I just think it's cool.
But you're so in the moment. You said it's cool and you're humble too. And it's like, do you ever look back, and like, because I know you said you're still waiting, but do you pinch yourself and say, man, I can't believe all this stuff has happened?
Okay. So the joy of not being in the I am thinking is the other side, which is, why am I so lucky that this happened? Why do I live in such a great house? Why do I have Rob asking me to be on his show? So then you kind of fuel into your greatness of simply being and like sitting on the outside of it. So as opposed to wanting to say, oh, I wish I had, a Lamborghini parked outside my driveway.
Uh-huh.
Okay, why am I so lucky that I'm going to have a Lamborghini parked in my driveway?
Yeah. But we talked about this last week. We talked about the why, the why affirmation instead of saying I am. So why am I so fortunate? Why am I a great husband? Why am I a great dad? And so it's really cool to hear you say that. It's like I could talk about this stuff all night. So can you talk a little bit about, because I heard you in another podcast, you're a drummer, but you do this drumming and painting at the same time. Is that right? Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that's awesome. I was waiting for you to, I wanted to see like I could see Andre Agassi hitting a tennis ball with paint against the wall and it's splashing. I'm picturing you drumming with sticks and paint. I don't know how you do it. I haven't seen it, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the, taking a canvas, and then it was very specific. It was during a time when, I was working with another person and we were putting work together to honor Neil Peart. So he was the late drummer of Rush, who died of
He's Canadian too, right?
Canadian, yes. And so I connected, again, here's one of those moments where a person who was friends with Neil's father connected to me and said, would I like to meet the sisters of Neil Peart? I'm like, died and gone to heaven. So of course, I meet them and I'm painting and drumming, but I'm using the sticks on the canvas with music that's playing. So as I'm drumming, I'm not alone. I actually, my other friend, who's Greg DiFrancesco, we kind of branded ourselves as Lotus 97.7. Myself, Lotus, he's 97.7 Italian. So and a professional drummer for years and years, his whole life. So we would put the music on and then start working the canvas. So we would have a base of an image, and that image was most of the time a reference to Neil Peart or another great drummer. And then we would just be drumming to the actual music, being in the flow. And the intention
where was the paint? Where was the paint? On the drumsticks?
Yeah, we would just put the paint on the like dip it into the
Yeah,
into the paint and then drum onto it
that's what I'm
on
picturing.
the
Yeah, good.
tent.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
cut you off there.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's okay. So that happened. Yeah. And then we had the show and Neil's family showed up and I ended up being friends with Hannah, who is a phenomenal, her and her husband are phenomenal people, dancers, musicians, and yes. So you get these little gifts, these little juicy moments that, and these people are also, I think we end up aligning ourselves. If you're going to spend time with people, there has to be a mutual benefit, win-win, and
Yeah.
you help each other.
It's, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to sit here and talk to you. I could talk for hours. I know I could. It's just so much good stuff here with the whole the spirit, and like you talk about just paying attention. And like I was going to ask you, do you know? And I might already asked you this. Do you know when I'll use the word Holy Spirit because that's what I believe. Do you know when the Holy Spirit's talking to you? You know, like right in an instant when He's talking to you.
24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week, nonstop. I mean, when you're awake, it's like I said before, like how do you not, if you've tapped into it,
Yeah.
and how do you untap? You can't.
Because like once you become aware of something, you can't become unaware of it.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
That's
what you
awesome.
want is for it to manifest, and it's like a spiritual drug where you gosh, that felt so good. I don't want that to stop. And
I
then
get it. I get that.
yeah. So I had an experience in 2006 where we were invited to be on a tour of China. And I had connected a friend of mine who had written a book about Marcahuasi, the stone forest of Peru. She had lived in like Lake Cusco and Lake Titicaca in Peru for 25 years and was writing this book. And so she wanted to have it published, and it was going to be published in Thailand. So she was flying to Thailand. For some reason, I said, well, if you have a chance to go to Cambodia, Angkor Wat, the wonders of the world, you should go. So she did. And then I get a phone call from her saying, literally, do you have $5,000? And I said, oh my God, did you lose your purse? No, you're building a library. So she connected with this monk, and the story is phenomenal. It's too long. I know we don't have much time left here.
Yeah.
But I ended up building the first library in Angkor Wat, which ended up becoming a forever passion, and a school for the monks and a school for the children, and then an innovation house in Buang Miala. And then now I have my small school in Village Rameus. So it's this forever thing that they fuel you. So when you're like being at the nursing home today with my mom, and I think I mentioned with you, there's a young person there who has been there for the last 4 years with spinal bifida. He's 33 years old, Pablo. And it's a privilege that you see a person who's literally paralyzed from the waist down, living in this body with so much joy and energy, and has the spark of something that is such an inspiration for me that I honestly, I'd rather spend time there in a conversation with Pablo than I would sitting in a room full of people bragging about, their Gucci shoes and their dinner at the Michelin whatever. And
Right.
I can't do it. It's like, that's lovely and it's okay, and it's the thing that people do, and we aspire to certain things. But again, it's this place that when you sit in the quietude of your soul, of your heart, then every single person, every single second is exactly what it should be. So why are you
Yeah.
closing your eyes looking for something else, trying to bring or attract something in, when what's in front of you is in its perfection? Like before, like every single person is in their perfection. They all come packaged differently. We all have different languages, different color skin, IQ, emotional IQ, but doesn't really matter. Whatever it is that you're supposed to do, and how it's received by other people is through the frequency, through the vibration, but the frequency of their vibration will be different than yours. But
Yeah.
you can raise their frequency when you recognize that that's what you're doing. It's like we are doing it right now. Like if someone's listening to us right now, you and I in our highest and best are going to wish that people will gather something from your voice, something from what you have shared in your story, in your books.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome. We're gonna let you go here in a second. I got one more. I got a question about
I'm in
something
no
you said
hurry.
earlier. Well, no, we're gonna
We got time.
two more things here. So, first question is, you said something earlier. It's about simply being, right? To me, yeah, that's like it's not so simple to just be, right? So, how do you simply be?
Okay, quick question, bad question, good question. Yeah. So concentration is the biggest gift that we have not yet understood or evolved to. And so until you learn the skill required, and that involves prayer, that involves meditation, vipassana, taking yourself to the place where you can simply sit in the solitude of yourself, and that's a practice. So while we are learning all the skills of cooking and cleaning and business and everything else, we allow ourselves to run into that. And then when all of a sudden you're ready to sit quietly, you don't know how. So the skill, which is why the Eastern cultures, the philosophies are embedded with passing down the tradition. So you will see families that are sitting and praying together, that are meditating together, that are teaching their children how to do that and the respect and honor that they have. So until such time as we perfect our language of self, the concentration, the clarity is a taught skill. We need to teach ourselves that through meditation.
Yeah, and I totally believe that. I agree with that. Like I try to do 15 to 20 minutes every single morning, and sometimes I just can't do it, and sometimes I do a little more. And years ago, I was able to do it for 45 minutes a day. So I'm working on getting back there. And what's interesting, I was at church, I don't know, several months ago, and I've only told a few people that. Now a few more people are going to hear about it. But anyway, so I get up every morning. First thing I do, I read scripture. I read today's scripture, read the meaning of it. I pray, and then I go into quiet time. I call it contemplative prayer. I call it the Catholic form of meditation is what I'll just simplify it to. And so I go to church 4 or 5 times a week. I do during the week. I'm Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday, right? And then I have my weekend stuff. So it's like I feel like I'm spending a lot of time, right? And I enjoy it. I totally enjoy it. So I'm at church, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, maybe 4 months, whatever. And I'm sitting in the balcony. They had this upper balcony, right? I'm sitting up in the balcony, and they're playing a song by Lauren Daigle, I think it is, Rebel Heart. And she's singing a song, young girl, beautiful voice, and she's singing it. And I'm looking at Jesus on the crucifix, and all of a sudden I got tears coming out of my eyes, right? And I hear the words, spend more time with me, spend more time with me, spend more time with me. I heard it very clearly. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm going to church 4 or 5 times a week. I'm doing the contemplative prayer. I'm saying the rosary, right? I'm doing it online. Like, what do you mean spend more time with you? And I just feel like he's telling me to just be and quiet with him more often. I feel like that's what he's telling me. That we have this in our Catholic world, we call it adoration. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
So I've done that. I feel like that's something I need to do more. But again, that's a place to simply be.
Yeah. If we could package one moment that we do it and allow that to sort of drink that all the time and then keep being in it, it would be beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool, right? So it's like that's the stuff, like you said, 24 hours a day, right? I would love that. But by the way, I have to have some food with my meals, so I got to work to earn the money to have food with my meals. But so let me ask you the last question I have for you, Patricia. This is before I let you go. I ask everybody this question. You're an artist. How much more chiseling do you think God's got going on for you? Because you've done a lot, and I know you said you're waiting. and things are happening, but they're happening and it's in their time. But how much more chiseling you think you got going on?
Every single breath, and I'll go back to saying that in addition to concentration, breath work is really important. That also helps still the mind. So being very aware of your breathing is important. If I give a definition to the chiseling, then it's in the compound structure of a continuum. So, and because I'm in the collective, I'm like a Kuan Yin. We have not completed what it is that we need to complete. So my personal chiseling is your personal chiseling, is my neighbor's personal chiseling. It's not over. It cannot be over until we have a complete Age of Aquarius oneness where we all step into the new world, basically. So there is no end right now to the chiseling. And mine is even more amplified and yours is more amplified because we're in that state of awareness where we know it exists and it's needed. So our responsibility is actually greater than it was when we were even born or as children. We've walked away through the process. We've done our due diligence on, therapy with, my childhood, my scars, my mommy, my daddy, all the other syndromes that exist. I'm not knocking people for that at all, because that's what makes us. But when we become more in tune with ourselves and we are more contemplative, we then learn the structure by which we can help others. And that holding hands, even if that's all it is a simple language. It's a simple language of showing up, of being there. You have choices. I had a choice today to go to a fancy summer party, do whatever. I chose to sit in a nursing home with an Elvis Presley interpreter with 40 people sitting in wheelchairs and feeling that I was in such a happy place. You just look around the room and I saw, there was singing, there was just a sense of cohesiveness and contentment. And yet it wasn't just that these were like senior people and younger people. It was that the people who were there to serve, who were there actually working today, were in it. And they fuel, just like my being there, being fully present to them, smiling and participating was fueling the ability for bliss to actually be in existence without the hesitation of somebody getting something out of it, getting whatever. So it's like you choose carefully where you're going to show up and what you're going to do, and it makes a difference.
Wow, this has been awesome. Like I said, I could keep going for hours, but if somebody wanted to reach out to you, get a hold of you, I don't know if you're open to that. Is there a way they can get a hold of you, or your website or something to that effect?
Yeah. So the website's being revised right now, but it's Patricia Gagic, Patricia Karen Gagic .com. I'll be all right. And then I just go, a lot of people reach out to me through LinkedIn. It's Patricia Gagic. And again, I'm open to patgagic@gmail.com.
Okay.
Be reached personally. So I'm easy to find. I can get tracked down. Just Google.
Well, you were awesome. Thank you for sharing all this today. I mean, it's just, to me, I think it's an inspiration to me. I sit there with my ears open. I know I got to ask questions, but I'm inspired by you. I'm learning from you. And I just hope everybody listens to this, gets a little bit of inspiration, because I think there's a lot here for them. So I really appreciate your time and everything you shared here today.
Thank you, Rob. You're a doll. You're brilliant. And I'm grateful. I'm just so grateful that you invited me to actually be on your show. So thank you.
Oh, this has been fun. So I appreciate it. So until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.